So, welcome to my last minute business revision. I'm going to try and get through all 21 of the name theories. I think there's 21. Hopefully, there's 21 because there's meant to be 21. So, I'm going to start off with Hofstede's national cultures. Now, Hofstede was a bit of a knob. He was a bit of a racist and a bit of a sexist. And basically, his ideas were that he was comparing the culture between different countries. Kind of how different cultures vary based on their geographical location. It's a lot of rubbish, really. But he thought he was the big man for making this. So it has six parts to it. So the first one is power distance, which is basically how power is distributed within the company, within each country. So a high power distance means that there's a high regard for authority. Employees expect to be told what to do, when to do it, how to do it. Like very, very strict, kind of your typical authoritarian lead. Your low PD, your low power distance is like your consultation, your delegation. Kind of employees have way more involvement in the decision-making process and don't expect to be treated like animals. So he also invented individualism versus collectivism. Which basically measures how close your employees are and the strengths of the ties, like within your employee groups. And funnily enough, high individualism means low connection. So your employees couldn't care less about each other. They don't want to go on team building activities, and they don't share responsibility between each other. Low individualism means that they're stronger together. They work well together as a team. They share responsibility, and they're just good, fun teammates having a fun time at work. And this is the worst one. So Hofstede defines masculinity and femininity, with masculinity being positive and femininity being negative. So this is based on the decision-making style, with masculine being like a very aggressive, risk-taking, fact-based decision-making style. You know, your facts don't care about your feelings, you emotional women. And the feminine is where you consult, you analyse, and you are emotional and can't make decisions. Next, he invented uncertainty avoidance. So basically, he's measuring like the level of anxiety in like unknown situations. Mine would be very high, and he's basically talking about like a low level of uncertainty avoidance means like your employees are willing to take a risk, but high means like they want things to be a set way, and they get a bit nervous when things kind of aren't going to plan. Typically low means that you're less entrepreneurial and less masculine. And then you've got long-term orientation, which is another one, which is basically just short versus long-term thinking. You know, your short-term being like your pump and dump, your long-term being like, this company's going to be around forever. And it links very closely to like the economic side of things with this one. And the last point he made, invented, created was indulgence versus restraint. So this is an interesting one. This is talking about like your life outside of work. So in indulgence, like you're enjoying life, you're having fun, you're doing cool things. Restraint, you're just not. This is like No Nut November in a theory. You just don't do anything. You're very restrained. You're holding yourself back. And so that is Hofstede's national cultures. Next, we have Lewin's force field analysis, which is kind of boring. All it does is really describe the driving and like the restraining forces for change and how to eliminate them. So it's the one with the two arrows that like go against each other, and basically each point you'd have your list of your points for the change and your list of your points against the change. So each one is weighted, so with like your highest weighting being like the most important one. And basically the point of it is to just basically describe like why you want to change and why you don't. And then after you've done that, you go in and basically ignore all of it and try and make one side stronger, which is why it makes no sense. But anyway, we will. But yeah, basically the point of it is to identify driving and restraining forces for change. Next up, we've got Maslow and the hierarchy of needs. So there's like loads of really similar ones to this one, but this is the one where you've got physiological on the bottom, you've got safety, social, esteem, and at the very top, you've got self-actualization. So each one goes, so physiological, that is you've got clothes on your back, you've got a roof on your head, and your belly's full of dinner. That is like it. It's like you're alive, full stop. Safety is like, first of all, you're not in like imminent danger when you go into work, and second of all, that you've got some job security where you work. Social is pretty self-explanatory. You know, social. You're talking to people. You've got friendship in your life. You've got love in your life. Esteem is like self-respect and also respect from others. You know, gives you some good self-esteem. And self-actualization, that is like fulfilling your potential. That is kind of making sure you're happy, you're satisfied, and you're doing good. You're doing good. I'm not. Anyway, the Boston Matrix is up next. So this one, I remember it. This one, you've got market growth along one side, and you've got market share along the other side. So you've got stars, which are high market share and high market growth. These are like your star product. They're doing really well at the moment. Then you've got low market growth but high market share. That's a cash cow. So that's been bringing in all the cash, but it's not really, you know, there's no massive like route for it in the future. You've got the question marks, which are high market growth but low market share. You know, you don't really know what's going to happen. It's got the potential because the market's growing, but the product itself isn't doing so great. And then you've got the dogs. So that is your low market share, your low market growth. It's rubbish. You should probably cut it off. And that's the Boston Matrix. And next, we have our beloved Blake Mouton grid. So this is the managerial grid. So you've got concern for people along one side, and you've got concern for task along the other side. So your low concern for people, low concern for task. That's an impoverished leader. Rubbish. Definitely haven't worked for them before. Then you've got your high concern for task, but low concern for people. That's like an authoritarian leader. So they're like very strict, also known as a produce or perish. They're going to sack you if you don't like make 8,000 shoes or whatever. Then you've got your high concern for people, low concern for task. That's your country club leader. So that it's typically like in artistic professions and stuff. Like they don't really care what you're doing as long as you're happy, because they know if you're happy you're going to create good stuff basically. And then you've got your team leader, which is your high concern for task and your high concern for people. That's the one basically you want to be in. Yeah, why wouldn't you? I mean, that's the good one. But there's also like middle of the road leaders, which there's not much to say on it really, because they're just kind of there. They're not good at any one thing in particular. They're not really doing good for themselves, but they're also not horrific. So I guess, I don't know. Anyway. Next up, we have got Anzoff's Matrix. So this is your marketing and like strategy. So this is where you've got new and existing products and new and existing markets. So your existing market, existing product, that's market penetration. So that is where you're penetrating the current market with your current product, and you're trying to grow market share basically. Your new product in an existing market that's your product development. So you're already in the market, you're now like adapting your product, and your existing market Hang on, wait, what was the one I just did? I did product development, which is new product, existing market. So now I'm doing existing market, new product. That one is market development. And new of each is diversification. So diversification's good because it gets you out there, but it's also the most risky. I did a horrible job at that one. Tanaban Schmidt. So tell, sell, consult, and join. So your Tanaban Schmidt continuum, like that. So you've got going across and up, you've got a big line. And that is just like control that subordinates have, basically. So the further along the line you go, the more control that like the employees have. So you start at the very bottom, which is tell, which is basically where the employees just get told what to do, how to do it. That's kind of your typical authoritarian style. Next, you've got sell, which is where the employees are going to tell the manager's going to tell you what to do, but they're going to try and get you on board with it. They're going to try and kind of, guys, we've got to do this, but trust me, it'll work. Consult is the next one, which is basically you turn to your team to see what they think about certain things. So the manager's still making the decision, but they do take in a bit kind of a bit more from the team to see kind of what they think. And then join is also kind of, that's your delegation basically. So that is where a manager will entrust their employees with the same tasks that they're doing because they know their employees can do it basically. Yeah, that's that one. Hackman and Oldham. So they basically define how like the job's characteristics. So it has 5 parts to it. The first one is skill variety, which is basically how many skills or talents the job requires. So what you need to be doing within your job. Your next one is task identity. And that kind of describes like the start and finish of a task. So like doing a very little task, like say I was, I don't know, putting a seed in a plant pot. The start would be when I'm taking the seed off the conveyor belt. The end would be when I'm putting the finished good back on the conveyor belt. And it describes the start and finish of your task. Task significance describes, well, is it meaningful? Does it add something to the production of the product? And does it add something to the employee? Normally don't add anything to the employee because why would it? But can you see that your work is making a difference within the company, basically? Because all business cares about is the company. Autonomy, how much freedom an individual has. So whether I could make my own decisions in the workplace, say, and where I can say, I don't know, like, I can make decisions for myself. I know what I'm doing, how to do it, and I can kind of, I know what I'm doing, basically. And the last one is the job feedback. So that is basically just like feedback and like appraisals from managers and stuff. And you just get a response for your work, so you kind of know how you're getting on. I don't know who'd want that. Anyway, Hertzberg's 2-factor theory. So Hertzberg was interesting because he defines hygiene and motivational factors. So hygiene factors being things that aren't going to motivate an employee, but will demotivate them if they don't have it, and motivators being motivators. So interestingly, Hertzberg said pay is a hygiene factor, meaning that if workers, like a high wage won't motivate you to work more, but a low wage will demotivate you, basically. And he also says, like, the basic ones, basically, like working conditions and supervision. Those aren't going to motivate you, but they may demotivate you if they're rubbish. And then the motivation is, like, your typical motivation, like your responsibilities within the workplace, your sense of achievement, recognition, how it makes you feel. And the opposite of Hertzberg is Taylor. Jeff Bezos would be dead without him. So Taylor invented performance-related pay, like your piece rates. So Taylor really believed in like firm control, a big authoritarian leadership, where your job is broken down into tiny little tasks. You work away, work yourself to the bone for Taylor, and get how much you put in, basically. So if I'm there working away, I put 1,000 seeds in plant pots, but someone else puts 10 seeds in plant pot, I'm going to take home way more than they are. That's performance-related pay. Fun. Kaplan and Norton's balanced scorecard. This basically is it's a non-financial measure of business success, and all it basically does is describe the four functional areas of the business. So your finance, your operations, FM, marketing, and people, your human resources. But it's all centered around the business's strategy and the business's vision. And then you set goals, you set financial goals, you set internal business process goals, which is your operations. You set your learning and growth goals, that's your human resources. And then you set your customer goals, which is marketing. And next we have Elkington's triple bottom line, or Elkington's 3 R's, as Layla would put it. So this is your people, your planet, and your profit. So people's the only not self-explanatory one, but then again it is. So people includes all people involved in the business, all the stakeholders. So that is your customers, your suppliers, and your employees. Kind of anybody with the vested interest in the business. Your planet is self-explanatory. Don't kill the planet. Make sure you've got somewhere where your business can operate, because there will be no businesses if there's no earth. And your profit is also pretty self-explanatory. Businesses need profit to survive. The overall point of a business is to make a profit, supposedly. Yeah, that's Elkington's 3 S's. Carroll's CSR pyramid, corporate social responsibility. So that has 4 layers to it. So the bottom being economic responsibility, the next one up being legal responsibility, next one up being ethical responsibility, and the top one being philanthropic responsibility. So your economic one is pretty self-explanatory. That's just be profitable. The business's only purpose is to be profitable. Your legal one, that is be profitable legally. So if your business was on the very bottom of the CSR pyramid, it would be a drug cartel or something, I don't know. That's doing crimes and not being legal. So they really don't care about any corporate social responsibility. Your next ones up are the bare minimum, we're not breaking the law. Well done. Would you like a medal? The next one up from that is kind of doing what's right. That's your ethical. It's basically don't be evil. And then your top one, your philanthropic, I think that's how you pronounce it, is contributions to community, contributions to kind of the environment around the work. That's kind of your everything above and beyond, which you'd hope businesses did anyway, but they don't. Bowman's strategic clock. Now this one's kind of awkward because it's a clock with 8 sides instead of 12, and it starts down here. So basically the clock is just a big circle on an axis, with the axis being perceived value going up and price going across. So your number 1 is here. This is in this corner. So that's low price, low value. And then we kind of work our way clockwise around. So your number 2 is low price. So it's, Number 3 is your hybrid. So it's kind of mid-range, evenly priced. I don't know. Your top is differentiation. Your next one along is your focus differentiation. Number 6 is an increased price standard product. Number 7 is increased price low value. And number 8 is low value standard price. So you see the ones up here are your differentiation ones. The ones down here are your rubbish ones. And then you've kind of got your low price and your kind of good value, low price in this area. It's I don't think they'd ever ask you like about a specific part of it. You just kind of need to know that it goes around on that axis, basically. Hopefully. So now we have Bartlett and Goschel. So this is the international, multi-domestic, transnational and global strategies. So this also operates on an axis because everything's either an axis or a pyramid. So along this side you've got pressure to cut costs, and along the bottom you've got pressure for local responsiveness. So in this bottom corner here, your low pressure, low local responsiveness, those are your international companies, so you're willing to pay a premium for those, basically. It's like you establish brands. It's like you Coca-Cola, Starbucks, like the big boys that don't kind of change wherever you go, and that kind of don't have much pressure to cut costs. As you go up, so you've got low local responsiveness, high pressure to cut costs. That's where you've got your global businesses. They don't need to differentiate because they are competing on cost. And like examples of this would be like Toyota, like massive companies that don't need to compete on cost. Down here, you've got your high local responsiveness but low pressure to cut costs. So these are your multi-domestics, and these are your real like premium brands. So this is kind of like your Louis Vuitton, your Gucci, that do actually offer, I don't know if they do or not, but that do offer different products in different countries. I'd assume they would. I don't know anything about designer, look at me. And then, so your top corner, that's your transnational. So that is high level of local responsiveness and high pressure to cut costs. So it's a cheap provider, and it varies per country. And like examples of this would be like your McDonald's, your KFC, basically like a lot of your fast food brands, because they do vary per country, but they don't have that pressure to cut costs because they can communicate with local suppliers. And next up you've got Porter's 5 forces. So Porter's 5 forces are supplier power, buyer power, competitive rivalry, threat of substitution, and threat of new entry. So your supplier power is pretty self-explanatory. That's kind of how your supplier can manipulate you into paying a higher price or getting a less premium product. Your buyer power is basically the inverse of that. So that is how your buyers can manipulate you into giving them a discount. Competitive rivalry is just how competitive the market actually is. Like kind of if there's like a lot of new competitors, if there's a lot of differentiation in the market. Next you've got your threat of substitution, which is kind of how easily accessible are like comparable substitutes. So how quickly can I be replaced? And your threat of new entry is just kind of, it's your threat of new entry. How the barriers of entry are like affecting brands looking to enter your market. And next you've got Porter's generic strategy. So this is again another axis. So you've got cost and differentiation, and you've got broad and narrow markets. So this basically just describes like how your business operates, how like kind of what market it operates in. So your broad cost-central products, that's cost leadership, because you're leading on cost basically. But your narrow markets with a cost focus is cost focus. It's basically introducing like a lower cost option into the market, into the narrow market. You're broad, so you've got broad differentiation, and that's differentiation leadership. So that is a business that leads by its differentiation. So it's kind of new for the market. It's doing something different in a larger market. And then kind of the other side to that in the narrow market would be a differentiation focus. So that's like a brand new product in like a new market. You know, it's something new. It's something fresh. Yeah. Handy's cultures. So Handy basically has 4 cultures that describe a business. So you can either be task cultured, role cultured, power cultured, or person cultured. So your task culture is basically where each individual has power over their own work. They feel empowered to do it. They have control. They're just doing their job basically. Your role country. What am I talking about? Your role culture. That's controlled by like big job titles, like procedures, regulations. I'm too tired for this. Regulations. This is basically the bureaucracy. So like loads of paperwork, but everybody knows their place. Your power culture. Now that's where you've got your one like big authoritarian figure, your big scary man. That's gonna tell everyone in the business what to do. You know, there's real like kind of hierarchy, real focus on that one figure that is leading the business. So that's like your Elon Musk of Twitter. And then you've got person culture, which is basically like, this is a nice business, this is a nice one. So it basically solely exists for people to develop their careers, basically. So that would be a business offering like loads of apprenticeships, like graduate schemes, anything kind of nice, vaguely nice, that isn't just exploitative. That would be a person culture. And now we have, I hate pronouncing this, Cotter and Schlesinger. Selsinger, I don't know. KNS, we're calling it KNS. And there's two of these. The first one is their 4 resistances to change. So this is the 4 reasons why employees wouldn't want to take on board a change. The first one being parochial self-interest. They are too up their own arse to want to change anything. They're really set in their ways, and they just they've got their own self-interests. Are the only thing they care about. They're not bothered about changing a thing. Misunderstanding and lack of trust. That's another big one. And that's basically where they don't understand why the change is needed in the first place, and they don't trust that their best interests are at heart. So they don't want to change a thing because they don't trust that the business is going to change in their best interests. Different assessments of the situation can also lead to resistance to change. So if I thought the business could do something differently and that it could change in a different way, I maybe wouldn't want to get on board with the change that they've said. And the last one is just low tolerance for change. Some people are just set in their ways, they don't want to change, and they're not having it. Why would they? And the other KNS is the 6 ways to overcome change. This is basically communication 6 times, because you can't change without communication, let's be honest. But there's 6 ways of communicating that you want to change. So the first one is education and communication. This is basically, you just educate your staff. You tell them why the change is happening, and yeah, it's not difficult. The next one is participation and involvement, which is basically where the staff and the management kind of get you involved in the change, and they kind of discuss with you why it's happening and how it's going to benefit you. The next one is facilitation and support. So that's kind of where you find out why the staff are concerned with the change. And you put measures into place like training, other stuff like that. The next one is negotiation and agreement. So that is basically bribes. You are incentivizing people with bonuses, and they want to get on board with you now because you've given them a big lump of cash. The next one is my personal favourite, manipulation or co-option. So that is basically where you've got a team of people that don't want to change, and you go in and you find one that maybe does. You break that one person, and you get that one person to tell all of their friends how good the change is, and suddenly all of their friends are involved too. A bit of manipulation, you love to see it. And the last one is explicit and implicit coercion. So your explicit coercion is like where you basically say, if you don't agree with me, I'm going to kill you. Your implicit Communication coercion is where you go, oh, if you don't agree with me, you're going to lose your job, which means you're going to starve to death, which means you're also dead. Either way, the person dies. Anyway. The last one. Finally, the last one. I can't believe I've been going at this for like half an hour now. The last point is Grainer's model of growth. So this describes the issues that come along with a growing business, basically. So it describes 6 phases in the business. So you've got creativity, direction, delegation, coordination, collaboration, and alliances. So you're going from the smallest businesses are like your creativity, your largest ones are your alliances. And it's basically just the problems that arise as you get bigger. So in your creativity phase, you may have an issue with leadership, and you need to overcome that before you can enter the direction stage, where you will have an issue with autonomy, and then you need to overcome that before you can enter the delegation stage, where you're going to have an issue with control, which you need to overcome before you can enter the coordination stage. Now you're going to have an issue with red tape. Now you're going to enter the collaboration stage. You're going to have growth issues, and then you're going to start an alliance. I feel like we've gone through this one in class like 6 times, and it like the words make sense, and the idea of it makes sense, but there's no chance in hell of me remembering that or anything else. But I need a drink. My mouth is really dry. I've been talking for half an hour straight. Anyway, that was my fun business bitch. Yeah, get it, I guess. Imagine my microphone hasn't been on this whole time.